Oh God, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining us already in the chat. I hope everybody's doing well. We're going to have a real quick fire discussion today. It's going to be very fast, so stay with it, inshallah. Of course, our guest speaker is joining us right now, Brother Yusufismail from all the way from South Africa. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, Brother Yusuf. Nice to see you. Hope everything's well.
Walaikum salam, Brother Muhammad. It's good to see you again, and hope everything is well on your side. It's certainly been. I think this is the last week at least was the anniversary, the 1-year anniversary since the genocide commenced, and you've been resilient from your perspective on your channel, and certainly we have maintained the continuity in terms of what we see here over the past couple of months.
It just seems to get worse. The violations that this is Zionist army and IDF are breaking right now, especially with the United Nations breaking into the main gate of the base of the peacekeeping forces there in Lebanon, the Lebanon border. They basically burst into the gates of the United Nations base, and tanks have gone into the United Nations base. And how much can the world cover for the Israeli occupation of Gaza, of course, and of course now the situation in Lebanon? How much more can the US and other Western governments, cover the crimes that are being committed? And recently, reports are coming out from Gaza of over 902 whole families of Palestinians have been wiped off the face of the earth. Now, just comprehend that, brothers and sisters. Imagine generations and generations of your family being wiped out. 902 families have been wiped out. It's totally shocking. How much more can we cover for this Zionist evil genocidal army? It's preposterous. It's shocking.
Yeah, it's the synchronicity of you mentioning 902 families. I just saw this here. I've just uploaded it. It just needs to be shared as a screen. Basically there was a 649-page document, but here's the article about wiping the names, and each and every single name, Palestinian families killed in Israeli attacks on Gaza. This is one particular example, and it goes on to give you a list of these families and how individually these people have been, systematically wiped out. The generations are completely down. This is one particular family where one of the individuals, the father of Zain, he rushed home. He was shocked. I saw a scene. I could not believe my eyes. Everybody was under the rubble. The house was pulverized. The bodies were reduced to shreds. So imagine that you're coming home to your family and everything is removed to shreds. Totally, everything's removed to shreds. And these are by the way, and I'm going to just share another report with you. These are conservative figures, 41,909 people. That's the figures given by the Palestinian Health Ministry. And in fact, if you look at that on average, which is a low estimate, and I'll tell you why, on average, you have a situation that every day in Gaza, about 115 people are killed on average. That's 1 out of every 55 people. 46 are children, 31 are women, 38 are men. So the vast majority of people murdered are actually children. 266 people are injured daily. This is daily. That's about out of every 23 people in Gaza. 27 people are missing under the rubble, and 5,480 people are essentially forced from their homes. So this is the issue, the children. And I want to Gaza has become basically, as the United Nations has stated, a modern day graveyard for children. Many of these children live through traumas of multiple wars. More than 17,000 children have lost approximately one or either two parents. And in the early numbers, in the early days of October 26, when it essentially started, but even before that, at least 38 members of one family across 3 generations, including 7 women and 20 children, were murdered. But this is not it. We've been banding around the figures of um, 41,000, 42,000, and so on and so forth. But the figures are actually different. If you look at the figures, and I'm going to share this particular document. This is a report from the Lancet. The Lancet is a medical journal. According to the Lancet report, do you know how many people have been possibly murdered in Gaza? According to the Lancet, the number of individuals murdered in Gaza you're looking at a figure of approximately 186,000. 186,000 um, that have been murdered, and this basically includes the figures. And let me share this. This is the article here. I'm going to share this here so that people can see that we're not lying or making this up. The Gaza Health Ministry is stating that the figures are about 41,000, but according to the Lancet report, here's a figure. Gaza toll could exceed 186,000. And the study finds, if you can share this, yeah, you've got it shared on the screen. The study finds factors like diseases will lead to more indirect deaths. So 186,000 basically is the cumulative figure of the deaths. This is published in the journal The Lancet. That's published in The Lancet. According to the health ministry, more than 38,000 have been killed. That's the Gaza health ministry. So those figures are, in fact, conservative. They're conservative. But the study points out that the death toll is higher because they haven't taken into account the thousands of dead buried under rubble. And you're looking at this is basically, look at the date. This is in July. This is in July 2024. So taking into account July, you're looking at August, September, October. Plus now you've got what's happening in Lebanon, where on conservative estimates, 2,000 to 3,000 people have been murdered by the Israel. The vast majority are basically not Hezbollah fighters, but essentially are civilians, men, women, and children. The reality of the situation is that the situation is shocking beyond belief. But this is even worse. There's something worse. Up to now, we don't have the actual number of deaths of those people that were basically killed on October 7th, which have been barking. And now the figures are even lower, that approximately maybe 600 civilians were killed, and a large number of the civilians were basically murdered by the Israeli Defense Force, invoking the Hannibal Directive. Now, just in September, and I don't think we've covered this, you have a situation where there was a release done, and this was basically shared in the Swedish National Parliament as well. This was a report. This is shared by the Cradle. I'm going to share this, Brother Muhammad. Here's it here. This is it here. You can share this on the screen. If I'm just going to expand this, Gaza officials have now released a document, a 649-page document, which names every single Palestinian that was killed and murdered by Israel. And if you go to this particular document, if you go to this specific document here, about 649-page document that had been killed, the names of on the first 14 pages of the document, there are names of just babies murdered under the age of 1. 14 pages of the 649-page document contained the list of babies, and the final 11 pages contained the names of people aged 77 to 101, all of whom were born before the state of Israel was established on stolen Palestinian land in 1948. So this is essentially the situation that you basically have got here. That people, and by the way, these people were not killed accidentally, because these are not just accidental killing, which is what they're saying, collateral damage. So there's a shrapnel killing or bombing or whatever the case, which we've now exposed beyond doubt that it's AI technology that is being utilized for purposes of murdering these individuals. A lot of these people were shot dead in cold blood because we've got doctors, we've got individuals that have basically shown that essentially a lot of these dead people and dead babies have got bullet wounds to the head, which means that the IDF have been shooting dead babies under one, shooting them in the head. Now, which sick individual, sick human being will engage in this? And this is an example of the list. This was a Twitter feed, but look at the list. So it's got the name, it's got the age, it's got the gender, it's got the ID number of every Palestinian murdered in Gaza from October 7th to August 31. Every single name is documented. And you know where their names are registered? They're registered under the Israeli population registry. So these are authentic figures that you can't make up, or names that are make up. Every name has an age, has a gender, has an ID number. So it's systematically being documented. Now, the argument is that the vast majority are children, a significant number are women, and then, of course, you've got a proportion of men that have been killed. And from the Israeli point of view, every male is a legitimate target because every male is a potential Hamas individual. So they've got no way of determining, because they don't have army garments or soldiers. I mean, the Hamas fighters are very few, by the way, and not a lot of them have been killed by Israel. But there's no way to determine at the end of a murder and a mass strike that, look, this is a Hamas civilian and this was basically an ordinary general civilian. You've just got the dead bodies and people that have basically been registered. There's no way that Israel can basically confirm that these are, and we've showed this image. Look at this image on X, on Twitter, that according to some reports, some of the 400 bodies discovered in mass graves, according to reports, I don't want to open Twitter, these bodies include children with their hands tied behind their backs, murdered whilst in captivity, a direct breach of the Geneva Convention. A direct breach of the Geneva Convention. Just video. These are dead bodies. Look at this. Dead bodies. Wheelbarrows. You like the father and mother to be in wheelbarrows and children in wheelbarrows. Here's a classical example of this. And therefore, you have this genocidal rhetoric. People talk about genocide. Hamas hasn't engaged in any form of genocide. There's no genocidal rhetoric in its charter. I've read the original charter of 87. I've read the updated charter of 2017. Nothing. Any sick psychopath out there that wants to come and challenge us, come and challenge us about the charter. Nothing of genocidal nature. Yet, you've got genocidal Israeli prime ministers like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, two of these psychopaths that we've exposed, and their supporters within the Israeli administrative Knesset, state clearly that they wish to flatten Gaza and expel 2.3 million residents to make way for new Jewish settlements in the enclave. So they're making no excuse of this. They're not covering it up any longer, not at all. This is an interesting article, and since we're discussing the year's anniversary, I want to also share this, Brother Mohammed, before you jump in, and I'd like to hear your opinion on this. This is a Guardian report, which is quite fascinating because it shows the pictures before and it shows the pictures after. And just for the record, Brother Mohammed, I have no problem. I know time is limited. We're going to go until about 6:30, 6:45, but share the StreamYard link. Share the StreamYard link. We have no fear of anyone who wants to come in. Share the StreamYard link. If you want to join on us and challenge us, as we've asked you for months, come and join us. You can post it in the chat. You can post it on the YouTube. People are free to come on. But this is what I wanted to show here. If you can share this screen here. This is from the Guardian newspaper. This is dated to last week. A month before last, 25th September, just the end of last month. How a year of war laid waste the Gaza Strip, and they show you visual images. This is visual images. Um, Basically, they go on to state that Israeli forces have reduced more than 70% of housing stock have been damaged, along with businesses and countless public buildings, including schools and hospitals. And there's one prediction, one point that I made, which at that stage no major newspaper was mentioning this, and I hadn't even seen this particular article, but we were making that prediction. I'll bring it for you. This is exactly what we predicted. This is the figures. The radius. This is the strip. The strip is, I don't know how far it is from your perspective, but if you look at it from our perspective, it's about 60 kilometers long. 60 kilometers long is it's not, I don't know how many miles that is, but 60 to 40 to 60 kilometers long is not very long. But this is the statistics given. The proportion of buildings estimated to be damaged: northern Gaza, Gaza City, Deir al-Bala, Khan Yunis, Rafah, the entire Gaza Strip. And basically, they state that whilst Gaza has endured building, nearly 30% has sustained damage within a little over 2 months. So within 2 months of the Israeli genocide commencing, 30%. Then you've got satellite imagery of Gaza before and Gaza after. Here's some of the satellite imagery showing the destruction. Look at these sick, psychopathic people. Look at this. Look at this. This is it now. Can you see this?
Yeah.
This is it.
It's
Look at
amazing.
this. Go further. Go further. This is it here. This is on the 2nd of October, 2024. Everything is destroyed. I mean, this is a bastard nation. These are rotten people. Rubbish. Look at this. Look at this. Can you see this on the screen? The UN Logistics Center abandoned after it's destroyed. Areas once filled with greenhouses destroyed. Emirate Hospital destroyed. Bilal Mosque destroyed. Israeli fortifications destroyed. The Taiba Mosque. This is satellite image. Quadio. But I want to show you something here. This is October 2023, and it's already the bombardment started, as you can see here on that side. Now look at it. September 2024. Can you see this? Can you see that?
Yeah.
I mean, look at this. The greenery. There's no environment. I mean, are there tunnels even under the grass? Wiped out clean. This is the various sections, neighborhoods. This is what you're seeing here on the. If you look at the right hand, left hand rectangle, this is an entire neighborhood. This is an entire neighborhood. This is a stadium, Brussels refugee camp, the Philadelphia corridor. If you look at all these particular figures here, if you look at all of this, this shows you the level of devastation. The level of devastation is beyond belief. I mean, it just doesn't stop. This is another example. The IDF's ground insertion into Rafah. They were telling them to get out and go there. But look at this was in October 2023. Now we're looking at October 2024. Grass has grown, but there's nothing there. No houses. No houses. I mean, what is this? What on earth is this? And now here's the figures. This is what I predicted. It was not there. They say a total of 42 tons of debris lies across the territory, clearing the rubble, which contains human remains and unexploded ordnance. My wife was telling me that she saw something where there was someone that visited Gaza and they just saw flies everywhere, flies, and bodies with maggots. I don't know if people have seen bodies with maggots. You may have worked, but I see bodies with maggots in in um, in post-mortem reports where people are murdered in my court, and it's a horrific sight. It's not a pleasant sight to see. You know, it stays in your image forever. Now imagine the situation where there's worms all over, and this individual states that besides that, there are probably mines that are dropped by the Israelis. that could explode. They are suggesting that rebuilding it could take 80 years and more than $80 billion. Neither you nor myself are going to be probably in 80 years' time. If I'm here in 80 years, I'm going to probably be about, what, 110, 100, 100, what, 150, I don't know. But none of us are going to be here in 80 years' time, meaning that Gaza within our lifetime, we're now in 2024, 34, 44, 54, 64, 74, 84, 94. So it's 2104. In the year 2104, they're possibly going to basically be looking at a rebuilding of Gaza based on the estimated costs and the damage that you see here. I mean, what is this? This is a sick, sadistic, satanic, evil society that we are basically dealing with. And therefore, just before I break up from this, I want to share that people are familiar with this recent fantastic documentary by Al Jazeera. I want to just share about approximately just 3 minutes of this, as was captured in Democracy Now. I want people to be aware of this particular documentary. We're going to show the clips of it so that we don't get banged for copyright. But this is basically from Democracy Now. Have a look at this, and I'm going to basically share this and expand this completely.
To our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world. Health officials in Gaza say the death toll from Israel's war has now topped 42,000, though many fear the actual death toll is far higher. We begin today's show looking at how Israeli troops have repeatedly filmed themselves committing and celebrating war crimes in Gaza. Al Jazeera's investigative unit has just released a documentary on Israeli war crimes based in part on social media posts from Israeli soldiers themselves. The documentary begins with the Palestinian novelist Susan Abu Hawa, as well as footage of the Al-Awda school massacre in July, when Israeli troops killed at least 31 people at a school sheltering displaced Palestinians. The moment the bomb exploded was captured on video by someone recording a youth soccer game in the Al-Awda school courtyard.
The West cannot hide. They cannot claim ignorance. Nobody can say they didn't know. We live in an era of technology, and this has been described as the first live stream genocide in history, and I believe that to be true. They are conducting a genocide now with glee. They're setting their atrocities to music and putting them on catchy reels on TikTok. Ordinary Israelis see what their military is doing and celebrate it.
A crowd is singing "May Your Village Burn."
It's not just fringe elements who see this and think it's a good thing.
When a nation protects its home, it fights. And we will fight until we'll break their backbone. It's not true. This rhetoric about civilians not aware, not involved, it's absolutely not true. It's an entire nation out there that is responsible.
You know what, Brother Yusuf, there's body parts, there's people there, there's blood and guts. It's just devastating. Children.
An excerpt from a new documentary on Israeli war crimes made by Al Jazeera's investigative unit.
So it's just so powerful. That imagery is so powerful. And where are those supporters of this Zionist regime? We had some supporters previously coming on trying to defend the Israeli aspect of be able to defending themselves. Why are the Palestinians not allowed to defend themselves? Why is Lebanon not allowed to defend themselves? Why are the Yemeni individuals, people, groups not able to defend themselves? Sovereign countries are being attacked by this Zionist evil bastard regime. And I'm really sorry for being aggressive there, but at the end of the day,
these are sick people. Sick. You say what you need to, and you know what? Just to mention those sick, sadistic individuals that used to come here and start swearing on this platform. Come now and share. I want to leave one clip, which is 2 minutes, but I'm going to be cautious in terms of how I show this. Have a look at this, Mohammed, and let people see how they justify this. I'm going to share this one last. It's a 2-minute clip. This is what people need to see, the reality of the situation. Here we are. I'm going to expand this. This is what starvation looks like. Look at that. Look at that, the bones. This is Ethiopia.
وزن الواحد فيهم 2 كيلو بسبب سوء التغذية الحاد. المفروض يعني 8 شهور المفروض يكون وزن الواحد فيه.
An 8-month-old baby is supposed to weigh 8 kilos. This is 2 kilos.
8 كيلو. ما بيرضعوش لأنه فيش حليب، نشف الحليب، فيش أكل، يعني بده يرضع بده أكل، ما فيش. لا في اكل ولا شرب، حتى هناك ما فيش غير الحماد، الخبازه والحماد، بيهدول بياكلوش لا حماد ولا خبازه، وخبز ما فيش، بسكوت ما فيش. الواحد لو بده يعمل لهم بسكوت يفت لهم بسكوته، ما فيش بسكوت، ما فيش حاجه.
There's no medicine in the hospitals.
عاشوا فترة الحرب كلها، يعني بدل ما يعيشوا فترة أمان كل ليلة كانوا يعيشوا بقصف وخوف وجوع. وجينا هنا على الجنوب على أمل إن شاء الله ربنا هيك يفتح علينا، يوسعها علينا، نقدر ننقذ هالأطفال.
That is just so heavy on the heart, subhanallah. It's really shocking. And
how do you get Muslims coming on this platform and defending it? How do you get sick individuals coming? I mean, what do you say to this, Mohammed? You're an empathic individual. You are, I mean, I'm more harder, more aggressive, but you're an empath from what I can see. I mean, although you can stand your ground in a boxing match, I don't think anyone will take you on. But how do you get people to, after a year, justify such evil? Evil. There's no other way to do it. And that's why we challenge people to come on this platform to challenge us so we can expose your rotten ideology and your worldview. I mean, we spoke.
It's just within a week or just over 9 days, especially in the north of Gaza. They've kind of besieged this particular area, and at least 300 people have been killed by the Israeli forces as the military siege of northern Gaza enters its ninth day. People are trapped as a ground invasion and drone strikes and food and water supplies dwindle within that particular area. How much more does the world need to see and experience to call out now the genocide that's taking place? And the ICJ, I would love to get your thoughts on that, Brother Yusuf. The ICJ have to now issue warrants and call out the Western government to say, okay, these particular individuals, if they come to your land or your location to give a speech, you can't give them a standing ovation. You have to arrest them and detain them and send them to The Hague and send them to the gallows like they did with Saddam Hussein. And they openly executed him on TV they hanged him.
Yeah.
Why are not these individuals being called out now for their warrants and possible, court case and possible execution? The world cannot close their eyes anymore, Yusuf. It's totally baffling to me how the UK government have continued to support the Israeli genocidal army with supplying weapons and logistic means coming out of Cyprus, Nicosia, where I was based actually, also in the airbase of the corner of Cyprus where I've been there. Akatera it's called, I'm sure to the best of my memory, where I've actually been stationed there myself, where the aeroplanes fly out from. It's totally baffling to me that we are giving the Israeli army all the logistics, all the drones, all the weaponry, and we are continuing to support this genocide. Why doesn't the ICJ deal with this situation quickly and swiftly?
Yeah, that is a problem. By the way, I've just shared what you've raised now so that people can know that this is the United Kingdom and the United States government. This is, what's the date today? 13th of October. This is 53 minutes ago. This is what you mentioned so people can know. Just now, in northern Gaza, 300 Palestinians have been killed. Whilst the focus has been on Lebanon and the southern parts of Gaza, northern Gaza, the Israeli occupation forces, since the attention is no longer focused there, they are committing massacres. They're shooting people dead on the road, on the streets. This is a picture of a boy. He sees the bodies of his relatives killed overnight Israeli strikes in the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza. This was very common in the first early part of the war. And so, and this is the other point. Bodies are rotting in the streets, and the family members can't go and pick up the bodies. Bodies are rotting in the streets. The UN's World Food Program, we're talking about international organizations like the ICJ, says no food has entered the northern Gaza Strip this month. And they're saying the risk of famine is real. Famine is there. Famine is already happening. The Al-Oda hospital, and by the way, all the hospitals are finished. This is what's left of these particular hospitals. What the hospital infrastructure as a hospital has been destroyed, totally destroyed. So what you left is like the fossilized relics of this hospital, which are used as makeshift hospitals. One of the officials of the Gaza Health Ministry Emergency Services says there are a large number of martyrs still uncollected from the streets and under the rubble. We are unable to reach them, and that street dogs are eating some of the remains. Now think about that dogs and cats and animals and maggots are eating the remains of your parents and your children and your babies and your infants and orphans and people who have no families. And if you go and try and pick them or retrieve them, you are shot dead in cold blood by the Israeli snipers. What is this all about? Well, what is this? How sick and sadistic is this? You are a sadistic human being. This is this UN Special Rapporteur, Francesca Albanese, phenomenal woman, states that there's unspeakable cruelty and sadism by Israeli troops. I mean, you can see that sadism when they are wearing women's underwear. I mean, these are cowards. In Afrikaner, in South African Afrikaner euphemism, when we look for people who are effeminate, it's a vulgar word in the Afrikaner language. You call them the moffies. I don't know if you've heard this, moffies. If you're a moffie, you're basically someone that is, gayish, but more particularly in a cowardly session, in a cowardly way, that you'd let your family, if there's danger, you'd let your children and your wife be in front of danger, but you won't go and face the danger yourself and protect your family. These are what the Israeli troops are, moffies. So they wear the Israeli Palestinian women's underwear and clothes and items of that kind of nature and mock them openly. But in reality, they are driven by sadistic. This is what Israeli culture is all about. The UN Special Rapporteur, Francesca Albanese, This is not me. This is not Brother Muhammad, who may be accused of bias. She's a UN Special Rapporteur for the occupied Palestinian territory. She's Italian. She states, the Italian troops have accepted to be willing executioners of a genocidal plan, adding that the Israeli attacks are being conducted with Western support and Western weapons. It blows my mind to think that we know what Israel is doing, and altogether we cannot stop it. Look at where we were 100 years ago. Not much progress has been achieved. And, this goes back to the argument that you're being raised about the ICJ and the International Criminal Court. At the end of the day, these are also Western imperial tools. These are Western institutions which are tools of empire. And whilst the evidence has been overwhelming, and whilst the International Court of Justice has stated that Israel is committing a plausible case for genocide, we must not be fooled by the notion that any order that is imposed by the International Court of Justice can only be approved at the United Nations, and not at the United Nations General Assembly, but at the United Nations Security Council. And if we're talking about the United Nations Security Council, who ultimately has the veto power? Your government, Brother Mohammed, the United Kingdom, the United States. So if, for example, so the order is purely, and by the way, they haven't passed an order. That process is still ongoing and an investigation. And the ICJ cannot authorize an arrest warrant. It's the International Criminal Court that can authorize an arrest warrant, which in principle it has. But the reason why it hasn't been executed by the United States, when Netanyahu had this, when there was shirk, we saw people talk about shirk and being a mushrik. Well, we saw the mushriks at the U.S. Congress when Netanyahu was president. That is a clear example of shirk. And the reason why they will not arrest him is because the United States is not a party and hasn't ratified the Rome Statute, which guides and basically is the overarching determinant when it comes to the International Criminal Court. So the ICJ cannot basically authorize an arrest warrant. It basically deals with disputes between nations or can rule on cases of genocide. But the International Criminal Court can and does. But then you've got countries like the United States that will not basically execute that warrant. The United Kingdom is obviously has ratified the Rome Statute and does in fact recognize the International Criminal Court. But it will basically and so if Netanyahu were to enter the United Kingdom, there would be an obligation on the British government. But whether they will effect that arrest warrant is obviously leaves a lot to the imagination if that basically will happen or not. But this is basically the reality of the situation, that as we talk now, as at the 13th of October, don't forget North Gaza, 300 people have just been murdered. Right now, as we talk.
Well, Yusuf, the reports are coming in now. 5 children just killed by Israeli attack on northern Gaza. These young children were playing outside the refugee camp. Israeli drone came and struck the group of children who were playing near a cafe, near a refugee camp, and several people were also wounded in the attack. What really baffles me, the attacks on children, and you mentioned that report, and please refresh my mind. The first 14 pages, did you say, of that report is the names of children who have been murdered? Is that correct?
That is correct. The first 14 pages, not names of children. Let's clear this clear. Names of children under 1 year old.
Oh.
Names of children under 1 year old. So a child in Gaza is between, obviously from birth to about 17 or 18. But we're talking about children in this context. The first 14 pages, when it's dealing with children under 1 year old. This is the latest from the Arab News that you're referring to.
We'll go through. We'll share this screen. We've got a couple of people backstage, and
I just want to share the screen here.
Sure.
Here we are. Yeah, that's it there. That's the screen. This is the latest report right now. This is from 35 minutes ago. As we're talking now, meaning when this podcast started at 5:30, 5 kids were killed. This is the latest report. The latest report killed 5 children, according to the Palestinian News Agency. These children were playing near a cafe in the Al-Shati area when they were killed by a drone strike. The Israeli military, as usual, did not comment on the report. So why kill these children? And if you are saying that Hamas is there, well, that means you failed. In 1 year, you haven't got rid of Hamas. And you're just killing children, killing more and more children that are being murdered. More and more children. Whilst that is happening, there's a war that is being expanded in Lebanon as we're talking. But now, whilst the focus is on Lebanon, the killing fields still continue in Gaza. The killing fields still continue. So now, if this was to happen, let's assume, and by the way, only 2 children under only 2 children that were, I think, under 5 were killed on October 7th. One was in a strike, which was in all probability by the Israeli Air Force, and the other one was shot in gunfire, and that was confirmed by the Haaretz. So those, you could argue, if you want to make the point of collateral damage, you could make the point of collateral damage, but they were in fact even killed by their own Israeli military regime that were killing Israeli civilians on October 7th. Here you have a situation where direct hits, direct targeting of children. Now talk about that. I mean, now do we have anyone in the live stream chat that is willing to basically come and defend this? I mean, the longer this goes on, and we've been going on for months now talking about this, but the longer this goes on, you're coming out bad. You come out extremely bad. I know time's limited. We're going on till about 6:30, latest, 6:45, but 6:30 at the latest. But if there's, the reality is a situation that this is becoming indefensible. There's no defense to this. You can't make it. And by the way,
Yusuf, I've put the link out there. We've got a couple of people backstage. Let's see if they can either defend it, condemn it, or what's the third option for them. I'll bring Anam, who has come on the show before, and I'm still trying to figure out if he is a sympathizer or is he condemning these acts which are taking place. So we actually, as they say, we're going to hear it from the horse's mouth directly now to see what his stance is. And Anam, welcome to the show. Welcome back. I hope everything's well.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for the welcome. Brother, I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy coming up after you and coming up arguing against you. And also, like you said, 5 people are being killed every hour, or, children and things like that. But so, but here's the
when
thing,
you
right?
when you say but, for me,
I see. Here's the thing, right? Here's the but, right? I'm the same as you. Okay. Like, in other words,
there's no buts in us.
In other words, like, right, like a lifelong of sympathizing with one side, and trying to see the other side is, I feel like, when we miss something, that is just, it's in a way our failure, right? If we fail to understand the other side. And there's no way.
I have to interrupt you here. What's the other side here? I'm not just talking about these 5 children being murdered. I'm talking about children being shot dead in cold blood in the head, babies being shot dead in the head, in cold blood by Israeli soldiers. Now, what is the other side in that context? Is there another side to these bastards when they're wearing lingerie and shooting dead babies? What's the other side there?
Sure. I mean, but here's the thing. I could go there, but actually it's connected directly to what I was going to say next, right? Look, okay. This is me trying to say that I've lived the same, 1990 to 2024 now as you guys have, right? I've seen everything with my own eyes, right? So everything from 1990, right? Even though I was only yay high, right? But here's the thing, right, brothers? Us as an ummah, right? Like, I don't see us having live streams and fundraising going through the bank. Not you guys, but I'm saying for all these charities that are raising money for Gaza, but there's nothing going into Gaza. So where's this money going, right? So there's all this scams. There's all this let's, what it is? It's actually, and again, not you guys, right? But it's a pity it's something that people use it for profit, and people use it for ulterior motives, and countries use it for ulterior motives. But here's my thing, right? As an ummah, right? We never were outraged over children dying in Yemen and starving in Yemen, right? I don't see live streams and fundraisers going through the bank. In Syria, they destroyed the entire city of Aleppo. And I think it was on page like A7 of the New York Times. But as an ummah, we didn't even note that this city that's been around for, I don't know, the better part of 5,000 years is now like just smashed to smithereens, right? So 250,000 Syrians dead. You know, in China, the million Muslims who are in incarceration camps, you know, all the Muslim countries, Turkey, Saudi, Pakistan, they're all doing business with China. So I'm just saying, right? I think when I say the other side, what we're missing.
I don't want to interrupt you. I want to compare.
Sure,
I want to do the comparison.
I don't
but
mean
I want
to
to do the
dodge.
comparison. If you look at the death count, and by the way, we've been both myself and Muhammad. We as you correctly pointed out, we've never asked for funds. We don't. And people milk this. Piers Morgan milks this more than anyone else. A lot of people milk the Gaza war. We don't support people milking. We don't know how money is going inside. That's why I challenge a lot of individuals that claim to be raising funds for Gaza, and the money can't even enter Gaza because the Israelis are basically preventing that. I don't know how these people are claiming. There are few legitimate organizations out there. The vast majority, there's a significant number of scammers. But that detracts from the point. When you draw the analogy to Yemen, or when you draw the analogy to, for example, Syria, you create some form of moral equivalence. Yes, if you compare, for example, the Syrian war to what is happening in Gaza, there's absolutely no comparison. If you compare Yemen, and by the way, I'm a strong critic of Saudi Arabia and the Saudi regime, but if you compare what has happened in Yemen and the bombardment that took place in Yemen, there's absolutely no moral equivalence that could be established between the Saudi-led U.S. bombing, by the way, U.S. supported,
U.S. funded, U.S. warplanes, U.S. bombs,
funded bombing. It's a U.S. war. Saudi Arabia is just a proxy, they're the middleman. But it's a U.S. funded bombing of Yemen. But you don't have what we number one call the principle of Dola Special is the principle of genocidal intent, and none of them are engaging in illegal apartheid-like occupation of the other side. So my question to you is that, leaving aside these war zones, and this is the point that has been made by a lot of people on the right, well, why do Muslims not basically criticize other issues, which we do. By the way, I have done for many years during the Syrian war, the Uyghurs in China and so on. But the point is that when you look at what has happened in Gaza, particularly now, there is no moral equivalence or comparison to other conflicts in the Middle East. I mean, we're going to soon reach a stage. If you look, for example, at what happened, but it's reaching such a stage that at the early stages of the war, immediately the death rate was equivalent to the killing of Rwanda. The death rate in some squatters, according to some analysts, were at some points of this conflict genocide were equivalent to what the Khmer Rouge did in Cambodia under Pol Pot. So when you see, for example, it's not just, we're not talking about people dying now of shrapnel. We're talking about, of course, targeted surgical strikes on the one hand. Now we're having a situation where Israeli death squads are shooting dead children and babies and women in cold blood. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the latest Al Jazeera documentary, which I urge you to watch. The Al Jazeera documentary. Have you had sight of that? Have you viewed the Al Jazeera documentary, which actually documents these crimes in lifetime? And by the way, I've seen the footage by Hamas. I've seen parts of the footage of October 7th. If you even compare that, and by the way, a lot of people were killed by the Israelis on October 7th, but if you compare that, there's absolutely no comparison to what is going now in Gaza at this particular juncture. The level of depravity, the level of mutilation, the level of barbarism is totally unprecedented to what Hamas has ever done. So when you say you need to look at the other side, there is no other side here. You're talking about asymmetrical warfare. There's no other side. You can't even talk about one country fighting against another country and the inevitability of war, which is what people attempt to basically draw their analogies to. This is not even a war on Hamas. This is a war on children. Have you seen the Al Jazeera documentary that was recently published and flooded?
No, but there was a showing recently, at a local masjid. So
you're talking about the one about investigation.
It was at the film festival too, right? So
sorry, is that the one we're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, this is one point I want to just share something with you, and I want to stop. I want to basically. No, it's important that I want your opinion.
But here's the thing, though. You said
guy.
not to interrupt me,
You're
and then
I want your opinion on this.
You went on. You went on, right? But I would really like you. Okay, go ahead. What were you going to say? It's your show.
Yeah, I just want to share this clip, Brother Muhammad. Just share this. I hope this is in English. I hope it's not a translation. If you can just share.
Brother, I did watch most of the Democracy Now! Presentation and everything.
That's Democracy Now! I'm talking about the actual.
Everyone who you could be around.
I want you to listen to
تم استهداف بيوت حوالينا بدون سابق انذار. الشبابيك وعلى كذا تكسر الزجاج والقذائف تدخل البيت والشظايا.
I want you to see. Now listen to this lady.
So many times when I went after a bombing that just happened, I literally felt like I was standing over a mass grave, but not just a grave of people who were dead, but people who are alive and they're stuck there.
وقف لي شغل شوي ابعد من ورايا ابعد من ورايا بسرعه ابعد من ورايا ظهر يا شباب ويا الله
You may be strong enough on your own to defend yourself, but as long as America exists, you will never ever have to. We will always be there by your side.
Israel orders the 1.1 million residents of northern Gaza to evacuate to the south of the Gaza River Valley. Many are unable or unwilling. Less than 3 weeks after October 7th, 16% of the buildings in northern Gaza have been damaged or destroyed. The official death toll stands as 7,028.
Now, here's the point, I just want to show you this side here, right? There are people there, and the footage is horrendous here. But the other side, this is the other side. I want to show you the other side that you're talking about. These are Israelis, and I'm talking about Israeli culture. This is the other side, and this is their perception and view of the war that people are claiming that they are essentially victims. But I want you to have a look at this.
Okay, brother. So I want to show you one thing. Now you're going to want another point.
Leave your home. Otherwise, your lives are in danger.
Like I basically start 2 sentences and then you make 3 points.
My husband was like, so if you know who I am, then you know that the bombardments around my home are nonstop. How do you expect me to take my kids and leave my home in such a time and risk their lives? And he was like, this is your problem. You need to figure it out.
I'm going to close it. Give me a second.
And I can't get over. My 12-year-old, Aline, when this happened, she screamed at me. She was like, they're going to kill us because of you.
What I want you to know,
they're going to kill us because...
and I'm just quickly, before we get to that point, whether these people, you consider them the other side or sick bastards. But I want to show you this. Just have a look at this. It's our immediate
The destruction in Gaza sparks a TikTok craze in Israel. Civilians dress up as caricatures of Palestinians and mime to an Israeli song called This Was My Home. An influencer suggests Palestinians are faking their injuries.
الإرهاب كوش أنا ما تجاهر صناعة كورس على الإنترنت شلي أنا إحنا نلمد بكورس أحلى بتاع البور بتزيري أحلى بتاع البور بتزيد شلتين.
Another influencer taunts Palestinians for the loss of water and electricity. These videos are shared many thousands of times.
I mean, it goes on. I mean, have a look at this documentary. But the question, Anam, is that these sick bastards are symptomatic of what Israeli society is. So my question to you is that when you say, and you keep on saying you butt it, look at the other side. This is a sick, satanic other side that we are talking about. My question to you is that that's not an aberration. That is reflective and symptomatic of Israeli society. That on the one hand, children like them, like their own children, are being massacred there, and they're mocking. I mean, what is this? This is sadistic behavior. So what other side are you talking about? Is this the other side that you want us to support? Well, what's your view? Have you seen that? Have you seen this before, or you're not familiar with this? Are you seeing this for the first time?
I mean, look, I'm online, so I see memes, and there was like let bro cook memes, you know, with Netanyahu doing the what's that Salt Bay thing, the Turkish cook who puts gold, you know. So anyway, they do inappropriate memes celebrating violence and wholesale destruction. But what I'm saying, okay, here's okay. Let me. So I was trying to say something. I answered you, but I did make some notes while you were talking, right? But one thing, okay, so here's the context, right? That you might see. First of all, you know, you're saying that there's this toxic meme culture, right? Which is very true, right? But I wouldn't say that's the entire.
That's not the main argument,
right? Because there's always these Pepe the Frog trolls online who have a celebration of like racism and misogyny and some kind of anti-historical thing. But so now look, I did see, yes, the main of your argument was the human rights, you know, like the bombing and everything. You're saying how to justify that, right? But okay, brother. So here's the thing, right?
I was waiting for the but, Aman, and you mentioned the but.
I mean,
the bombings, the killing of Hind Rajab, the killing of Hind Rajab, was that justified?
Yeah, brothers, but here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? We can watch something that is an ongoing war.
No, you butting it. It's a simple question.
We can watch an ongoing war.
One issue.
Yes or no?
There's all these
yes or no?
War footage.
I
right?
need to get this.
There's people under rubble in Syria. Aleppo was bombed to smithereens. I didn't see the Ummah.
I need to ask you a simple question.
Coffers.
Forget everything.
We use this cause
for our organizations out there,
and we're not
forget everybody out there. The question I want to ask you is that Hind Rajab, as an example, amongst many other children, but this was one example which has now become famous. The Israeli snipers shot 335 bullets into a vehicle. They killed her family, and then they left her there. They shot her, and she was dying, bleeding to death. Then the medics that went after the ambulance, they shot them too. My question to you is, would you openly condemn Israel as a satanic state for having done that? Or what do you see that as? Do you see that as justifiable? Do you see that as, let's look at the other side? Okay, forget all the massacres that have taken place. I'm giving you just one example, the Hind Rajab case. What do you say about that? It's a simple question.
Is my mic still muted?
Yeah, no, your mic is on. Your mic is on.
So
we can hear you.
So, by the way, I just want to say I've had 10 sentences, and this is the second question you're posing to me. Okay, so but let me answer your question.
You never answered the first one because you never really answered the first one.
Yeah, I mean, but here's
really frustrating.
Why you're asking me why is the conflict the way it is right now?
No, we're not asking you.
When you show me Al Jazeera documentaries that show only one side of this conflict, right? Hold on.
Are you saying only Al Jazeera? I mean, I can give you Western we've showed you Western news articles
that have
been biased, that have exposed Israel.
You know, the B'Tselem and the Israeli news is very amazing in reporting human rights abuses.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, well, here it's a free society, right? That's one of the benefits of having that kind of society. So but what I'm saying is, right? Well, here's if I can answer the first question, right? Okay. Now remember. So the Gaza Strip is a hotbed of at least three organizations, right? But the Hamas and the Islamic Jihad, right? Why are we here today is because in the early 2000s, there was a wave of suicide bombings led by Hamas, by the way, which I supported, right? And so they were making Israeli society you couldn't go to the shopping mall, right? So now, here's the thing. I supported that at the time, But what this did was lead Israel to create a wall, a separation barrier. And then when they withdrew in 2005 unilaterally, they turned Gaza into an open air prison. So,
but hold on, just to correct you, that's
one
false.
thing, I want to correct you. By the way, you said the ICJ is only. You say the ICJ is an imperialist institution. They ruled that the wall between the West Bank and Israel is illegal 11 to 12. Right, so I don't think it's an imperialist institution.
No, I was responding. I was responding to the question posed by Muhammad, where he asked why these organizations so slow. And my point was that at the end of the day, it turns back to the UN Security Council, which is dominated by two major Western
many times.
bodies.
It's a pretty good organization, actually. That's why the US doesn't subscribe to it. ICJ.
No, what's a good organization? What?
ICJ.
Yeah, no, I don't deny that. I'm not disputing that.
You said it was just an imperialist tool.
No, I said I don't dispute that. I in fact supported the initiatives and the various UN Council resolutions being passed. The point being raised was that Muhammad asked the question, why are these bodies so slow? My response to that was that at the end of the day, fundamentally, they are Western imperial. They are Western imperial institutions. They arise out of that. They come from that particular mindset. So at the end of the day, we're still appealing to Western law. That's the whole point. But I'm not.
But it's kind of cool, right? South Africa raised the genocide question.
I'm not rubbishing the ICJ. I'm not rubbishing the ICJ at all. I don't rubbish
it. It should lead the future. But anyway, sorry. But here's the thing, brother. So I mean, my larger point was, you mentioned Saddam Hussein, right? He used to fund suicide bombers for $10,000 for their families. The PA funds suicide bombers.
Let me just share what I got whilst he talks. Share what I got.
It's really annoying me. And
this is what we asked you. We don't care about Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was a thug, just like his sons. Bashar al-Assad is a thug. The MBS is a thug. All these individuals, we don't support any of them. We support none of them. But I'm saying that in the scheme of things, none of them, in terms of evil and sadism, comes close to Israel in terms of the genocidal intent. Now, the point is, it comes back to the question here. This is not Al Jazeera. This was a probe which we wanted to ask from you. The investigation by forensic architecture proves that the bullet by this 6-year-old girl was shot with 335 bullets, meaning she was drilled. She was drilled by bullets. The UK-based research group published a forensic investigation. We're talking about one case. Rajab had been killed with 335 bullets. Forensic architecture, Al Jazeera was one of it, and NGO Earshot. They stated the gun used for this attack was firing at a range of 750 to 900 rounds per minute. And the range of rounds per minute is consistent with Israeli army-issued weaponry such as M4 assault rifles, machine guns on a Merkava tank. What had happened was that her cousin was killed, a 15-year-old cousin was murdered. The individuals who had basically gone to assist her were killed. The ambulance were killed. And the report state is not plausible that the shooter could not have seen that the car was occupied by civilians, including children. Now, my question to you, you saw the comments by her, we saw her notes and all of that, all this that had happened. This is just one example out of dozens, thousands. My question to you is that in light of you raising the issues of the suicide bombings in 2000 and the existence of Hamas and Islamic Jihad, even for the sake of argument that they are bad groups, for the sake of argument, I would to concede that, which I'm not conceding. How do you justify this? Are you going to justify this by saying the other side? What's the justification for this? Because Israel was questioned. This happened in February. They did their own investigation, like the murderer doing his own investigation, and they stated that the IDF did nothing wrong. They did nothing wrong. So my question is, how is this justified when every major international organization and outfit have stated that it's clear-cut murder? This child was 5-year-old, shot and hit with 335 bullets. The bullets drilled her. And then the body was left to rot with maggots for 3 days. My question is that how does one then in such a circumstance support and basically butt and raise a justification for another nation or a bastard regime on this particular action? Explain that. I'm trying to find difficulty in reconciling your position. If there was symmetrical warfare, I could understand your point between two major nations. When we talk about asymmetrical warfare, how do you justify this? This is my point. Even if you were to talk about the suicide bombings in 2000 or the existence of Hamas and Islamic Jihad, which are not existential threats, by the way, they're not. at all. But even if we were to concede the point that, look, this is the issue, how does one justify the murder of this? This is what we wanted to come from you.
I don't want to annoy you, brother. It's not justifiable. But
again, you say but again. Why the but? Why the but?
You don't want to hear, because here, let me tell you about the ambulance.
Because I've given you in the past, I've given you enough time to speak, and I'm still trying to reconcile your position. Over months we've had you, and I mean, you haven't been able to give us a position.
Let me phrase it to you this way, right? So let's say now I know you're okay. Let's say however many Israelis were killed on October 7th, right? Let's cut it in half, right? Let's say it was only 700 or 600 or not, right? How many civilian deaths is justifiable to retaliate for your civilian deaths, just generically, right? Is there an answer to this question? That's that would be my because I don't want to annoy you with
the analogy
a lecture on history. Brother. In other words, let me put it in a philosophy. What is the virtue of a proportional response? How do you?
So your point is that in light of what happened on October 7th, what in my view is a proportional response?
Yes.
So from this, and this is the whole issue that Piers Morgan has been asking about proportionality. My point is that the question that you've asked is premised on a fundamentally flawed argument, because it takes the assumption at the very outset that even those 600 civilians that were killed on October 7th were killed purely by Hamas. And the facts belie the notion, because Israeli newspaper...
Well, I already gave you that point, because the official number is 1,200, but I cut it in half for you, so we don't have to argue about that. Okay.
So the question,
I'm just saying, though, there were, they threw a grenade inside a family's bomb shelter. They shot the family as they were going into the kibbutz, as they're opening the door. So, I'm saying, what is the version? And they shot all the teenagers at the music festival.
Can we at least agree to the civilian killings are unacceptable? But if Hamas had only targeted Israeli soldiers, that would be game on. You agree? That would be game on. If Hamas on that day
that would have been justifiable.
That would have been fine. I accept that. So we've got that. Now the issue is that the motivation in terms of what Hamas originally stated, their motivation was to basically get Israeli civilian hostages, together with attacking their particular Israeli soldiers in the given circumstance. The reality of the situation is you then had a situation where Israeli civilians were killed. My argument, my response. Yeah, they were killed. But now you ask me, what should Israel have done in the situation? It's quite clear.
I'm just saying generally though, if somebody kills 600 of your people, how many are you justified in killing?
Okay, here's a situation.
Correct answer? Because, brother, honestly, let me give you my answer.
Okay,
right?
I'll give you the answer. I'll give you the answer. They should have been at the outset. If I was Netanyahu, I would have resigned. I would have stated that, look, I'm a ruler of this bastard regime. I should have resigned immediately. Number two, I would have ended the occupation. Number three, I would have interrogated the IDF and Israeli intelligence like Shin Bet and Mossad as to how is it that, in accordance with the New York Times article, there was basically a report a year ago that Hamas was practically preparing to the T everything that was going to happen on October 7th. They knew about this, but they basically allowed this to happen. So I would engage in that particular form of interrogation. And number four, if we're talking about basically a targeted attack, if we're talking about an attack on Hamas, then you would get special forces. Okay, if I'm playing the devil's advocate, I'd get Israeli special forces to go in. For example, when they killed Ismail Haniyeh in Iran, they caused no civilian casualties, none. Secondly, they've got what they call AI technology, which targets specific individuals, and they've made mention of the fact that the AI technology is so precise that it can find out in your particular house how many people there are and who's the individual, and they can attack you. But despite all of that, the point being made is that our argument is that if we were to take your response and your question framed on the premise that you frame it on, there has been no response on that particular level. They've gone out to deliberately target civilians. That's the point we are making. Yeah. Our point is that, you see what you are saying. If I were to buy your argument, no, hold on. I need to answer this. If I were to buy your argument that, look, what Hamas did was extremely wrong and cruel and bad on October 7th, let's, for the sake of argument, agree to that. The response by Israel, you're asking me what the response is. The response has not been proportional. The response has been deliberately targeting Palestinian civilians and deliberately enforcing.
But you couldn't tell me what a proportional response is. Your idea. I asked you what's a proportional response. You said the government should resign, the intelligence should resign. They should stop.
What's wrong with that?
No, but
what is wrong with that?
I asked you. No, but in moral philosophy, though, right? I'm just asked you like a general question. If you incur civilian casualties, what is the proportional response? And you said basically there's no proportional response, right? You didn't give an answer.
Well, Anam, can I just mention something? Can I mention?
Go ahead.
I just want to mention that a lot of even the civilians within the Israeli society have weapons. They have machine guns, they have pistols, and they are fully trained in how to use them. I wouldn't have been surprised if these party goers or all these civilians had some type of weaponry with them. At the end of the day, if they had to break out of a prison, and unfortunately people lost their lives due to that fact. Also, the Hannibal Directive was issued by the Israeli army, where a majority of the Israeli civilians, were massacred also, and then they blamed that onto the Hamas fighters. So that has been exposed also. But the original question which I asked you was regarding Hind Rajab. How can you say but or justify the murder of this family?
No, I'm not going to justify that. But let me give you a context though. It's been proven that Hamas and Islamic Jihad used ambulances to carry their fighters. So that is
what's
something
wrong with that?
No, but that's been proven.
So that's what I'm saying. If you would,
I mean, there's news reports that have shown, for example, even the human shields. Do you still buy into the human shields argument? We've debunked that.
So no. Here now, I'm glad we're going there, right? I remember reading a news article in 2017 or something, 2010, one of the earlier bombings, right? Obama was 2008. So right around then. So I remember reading there was a journalist embedded with Hamas leadership in the basement of Shifa Hospital in Gaza City, because it's the largest hospital, and that's where Hamas knows that Israel won't bomb them. So now here's this war is different. Let me. But here's the thing, right? I don't want to annoy you guys.
They found Al Shifa to be false. It's basically Israel that has been using Gaza civilians as human shields.
No. I'm saying in a prior war, that's where Hamas leadership goes to hide, because there is all those civilians up in the largest hospital, and so there's no way Israel could bomb around there.
Anam, brother Yusuf, we have to move on because there's two other people waiting.
No, but I think it's important to Anam, can I get this? Do you accept, firstly, because you there's so many issues, and again we need to have a long debate with you. Do you accept that Israel uses Gaza civilians as human shields, directly as human shields? Do you accept that?
Yeah, there's footage of that this time, right?
There's footage of that, right? And do you accept that there hasn't been footage of Hamas or Islamic Jihad or any other organization of movement that has found to be basically actively using or forcing Palestinian civilians as human shields? We don't have any footage of that. These are just statements that are made by the Israelis. There's no footage whatsoever in relation to that in the present war. Do you accept that? There's nothing. I mean, they use the argument.
The whole strip is urban warfare right now. That's why they can't win.
You use the argument. Let's assume human shields are there.
They can't even hold the territory for 5 minutes after they leave.
Okay, but if you're saying human shields is there, that means Israel's got no moral agency. Because number one, if, for example, people hold you up in your house, and then the robbers hold your family and your friends, and they keep you hostage, does it make sense from a reasonable point of view that you get the special forces to bomb your entire house and kill you in the process? If robbers are holding you up and holding your family hostage, does it make sense that you'll get the entire army and the special forces unit to blow your entire house down in order to save you? It doesn't make sense. But that's the argument being put forth by Israel. That's essentially what they're saying. They're saying Hamas is everywhere, in every hole, in every nook, in every cranny. So they've got no moral agency, therefore, this means. And therefore, they can just bomb en masse. This is the same excuse that they're using in Lebanon. In Lebanon, they're making the same argument. That they're even making the same argument that the Lebanese health, that the Hezbollah are releasing figures which are basically showing a high civilian death in count, whereas the Lebanese health ministry has got absolutely no connection with Hezbollah in general. So I'm saying, can't you see that this excuse is just total bullshit? It makes no sense whatsoever. It's total hogwash. It's garbage. And I mean, this is part and parcel of the Israeli Hasbara. I can deal with an entire program on human shields itself. My point, going back to your original question, what would the proportionate response be? Even for the sake of argument, I give it to you that Israel maybe has a right to target Hamas. Well, they haven't targeted Hamas. Let's assume, okay, give them the permission to target Hamas. Abu Ubaidah, when the genocide started, made the point, come and fight us like men, face to face, fight us directly. But they didn't. They bombed Gaza into oblivion, and then afterwards they sent their soldiers, and the soldiers weren't targeting Hamas. The soldiers were wearing the panties of Palestinian women. They were destroying Palestinian houses, sadistically shooting Palestinians in the dead. Now, my question to you is, I don't understand your question, is that you're asking me what is a proportional response. Are you suggesting that the response at this particular juncture is proportionate? This is a question I should be posing to you.
But here's the thing: you answered my question with the question, but I'll have to come back next time.
No, it's not. It's not a question. I'm saying you're asking me what a proportional response is. Now, the point is
this proportional?
What we see on the ground is 186,000 Palestinians.
I would love to answer your question if you answer mine.
Okay, well, I'll answer your question. 186,000 Palestinian civilians have been murdered, according to Lancet, not the Hamas Health Ministry, but Lancet. That's the figure. Now, you're asking me what would a proportionate response be? My answer to you is that is not a proportionate response because, number one, it doesn't target Hamas. It deliberately targets civilians. And number two, Hamas is stronger than ever. They were initially sending people to Rafah and the southern parts of Gaza after they decimated northern Gaza. And when people went to the south, they bombed them there as well. When this waste of space, British, the female ambassador to the United Kingdom, she made the argument that the Al-Mawasi, which is a wasteland, that's where the Palestinians have to go to. They bombed them there as well. Now they're back to northern Gaza because, and when you ask them why they're targeting civilians in northern Gaza, their response is Hamas. So it means that the strategy is not failing. Their strategy is failing completely. It's miserable. This is perpetual, endless genocide. I mean, we can debate the issue of genocide, but you and I must have
we have to move on. We have to move on. We have to move on. I do apologize. And then
thanks, it's always good to have you on. It's always good.
Yes.
Email me. I know you had some issues.
Well, we need to set it up sometime.
We set up a time discussion.
And we'll give you adequate time. We'll give you enough time.
Thank you. No, you're always fair. Thank you.
Give you time.
Okay, thank you, Anam, for joining us.
We have to close up soon. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we've got Mike waiting, and we've got another brother,
Mike
Hassan,
shouldn't
waiting.
waste our time too much. I like Mike, but he mustn't waste our time. How are you, Mike?
Fine.
No, that's good. You can go ahead and say a few words. I hope you don't have the booze with you today.
I drank one vodka so far, and I gotta get to the bar to watch the Bucks game anyway. So
what Bucks game?
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's
I never heard of them. Football. We don't watch American football. We play rugby here.
Yeah, I hear, and we're cowards for having helmets on.
It's more entertaining. American football and baseball are slightly more boring than rugby and soccer. So
you know what? I played football, basketball, and baseball as a kid, and I never liked watching baseball until recently. You got to watch baseball with the idea that every pitch could be a home run, and it makes it a little bit more exciting. But yeah, it's a pretty boring game.
We'll have you on. I was just joking, Mike. We'll have you on for a few minutes, but we have to close the stream because I'm busy with a few other things. So
that's fine.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm going to leave. You guys.
No, go ahead. Make your point. Make your point, Mike. Make your point.
Make a point before you go.
Other than I'm banned in your chat for some reason. 3 of my accounts. So
okay.
Banned. No one bans you.
Yeah, no, I'm banned. Trust me.
But, are you banned?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't banned him. Maybe some of the mods have, but I haven't. But the
moderators
mods are in control.
You can comment on the South African Debate Initiative chat as well. You're not banned there. I mean, I won't ban you. So
I'll give that a shot.
Yeah. You go there and then you basically click on that and you can comment that. It's just at times at a premium. You want to say a few minutes? We've got about 2 or 3 minutes. Make your point, Mike, and then we're more than willing to. I was joking when I said you're wasting my time. I enjoy you on this platform.
That's fine. The game starts in 13 minutes, and I still have to put my pants on.
Yeah,
so.
Okay, mate. Thank you for joining us. Our last guest is Hassan Abdi. Assalamu alaikum, Hassan.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. With regards to this entire year that has gone by, and with everything that has happened in Gaza, um, I think it is at this point in time, we as I think we as an ummah need to be asking ourselves: Are we really are we really are we really in a position to be calling ourselves uh, the successors of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Sahaba, any of them? I think this is the time we should be asking ourselves this: Are we worthy of even saying those things?
It's a very deep question that you asked me and Brother Yusuf. For me, it's a prediction of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that where he mentioned in an authentic hadith that you'll be many. He mentioned to Hudayfa ibn Yaman, you'll be many in number, but it'd be like the fluff or the scum on top of the ocean, and people will come, and nations will come and take from you like a feast. Because we'll be weak. Our iman is weak. This is the problem, brother. And we've stuck on too much of the dunya. I think the hadith says that you'll be holding the tails of cattle or cows because we'll be chasing after the dunya. And unfortunately, this is what's happened to the ummah. And the only thing that rectified this ummah is what rectified it from the original position of the companions and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is sticking to the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sticking to the sunnah and not breaking and not going into different groups and parties. I think this is a brief answer from me, Brother Hassan, and that's all I can really comment on that. I'll let Brother Yusuf maybe share some thoughts on it before we wrap the show up.
Yeah, I second what you say entirely. I don't know what to say further after this. I mean, the Ummah has let down Gaza. We're doing what we can in relation to these programs, these chats, and we fail to unite. We fail to unite and inspire a collective consciousness that will basically resurrect, if I can use that word, or resuscitate the spirit of the erstwhile first companions, and of course during the duration of the Prophet. If you were to put that in that community, that early not subsequent communities, that early community, not the Abbasids or the Umayyads or what came subsequently or much later, but that initial community, with the four righteous guided caliphs, put them in 21st century society with the technology we have and all of that, how would they respond? How would they have responded to the barbarism and the open, deliberate destruction? What would their response have been? Would they have sat back? Maybe would they have gone and done a fundraising exercise, have chats, maybe go and join being interviewed on Piers Morgan, and and that's the point. I don't want to make this mention, but as da'is, and I can certainly testify to your character, Brother Mohammed, and I fall short of it. I fall short of it because I know my weaknesses, my problems. But there are, for example, a lot of da'is that are coming out in the open and are being interviewed in public and in some channels, and people talk about Piers Morgan, and it leaves a lot to be desired. It leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, there's some excellent individuals there, people like Mahdi Hassan and recently Loki, that have made sterling points with class, and you deconstruct the arguments. When you are a public figure and you then relegate a discussion when Palestinians are being murdered, and you relegate it to a cheap point scoring exercises, and you die, it's just an exercise in shamelessness. I'm sorry to say that, and I think we all have responsibilities. The media is framed against the Islamic Muslim narrative, and I think it's important that we need, when we get this opportunities, don't waste it. Don't waste that space, and make sure that even if the space is biased against you, you utilize it to the best of your initiatives. And there are certainly individuals that have done fantastic jobs. I know Hassan Zomlot, who's the Palestinian ambassador. You've got a lot of individuals that have come on his show, people and other individuals and programs on the Electronic Intifada, the Cradle, Owen Jones, Novara Media, and all of that. But my message dies out there is that when you want to take the public platform, whatever your personal life is, whatever you're doing in your background, don't make a bad case. Don't make a bad case for the Palestinian narrative. That's my only advice. And I think, Brother Mohammed, you know what I'm referring to. So
yeah, of course. So alhamdulillah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Brother Hassan, thank you for joining us, but we have to wrap the show up. The time was, a premium today. I love using that terminology. I got that from Brother Yusuf from his debates and unpacking. I love that one. If you haven't watched Yusufismail debate with some of these Christian apologists and stuff, you've got to watch Brother Yusuf debate. MashaAllah, amazing. And he's been an inspiration for me and a kind of a mentor recently of picking up particular phrases and terminologies, and he's been a very good knowledge base for me. So thank you, Brother Yusuf, for helping me become a better person. And Hassan, thank you, Habibi, for joining us, mashallah. I'm just going to move on now, inshallah, before we wrap the show up. And I just want to also mention that we had a little poll, a voting poll in the chat. And as you can see here, will the UN troops be forced to fire back regarding the violations of the Israeli army? No, 72%. Yes, 27%. And I appreciate the people.
I wonder who's the 27%. I wonder who the 27% is.
Interesting. So yeah, once again, it's been a very packed show. And appreciate everybody. Jazakumullah khair. May Allah bless and protect you and preserve all of you. And as we probably spoke over this 1.5 hours, many more people have been massacred and murdered by the Israeli army. It's totally shocking, but we can sit here and use the terminology of but we need to look at the other side. But no, and the issue of Hind Rajab. The investigation has been taking place, and she was murdered with her family, and 2 other paramedics were murdered also. And we can't condemn that. You cannot come on the show and condemn that. It's totally shocking to me and mind-boggling. Yusuf, Jazakallah khair, brother, for joining me.
We'll meet again.
Inshallah.
Next week, inshallah.
Absolutely. So this is your brother Muhammad from Kabafef and brother Yusufismail from the South African Debate Initiative. Don't forget to go to his channel and subscribe and share his content. This is my final words to all of you. May Allah have mercy and peace upon all of you. And for those brothers and sisters being oppressed around the world, may Allah make your situation easy in this life and the next life. And we need your supplications. The one who's being oppressed, we need their supplication. Wallahi, subhanallah. And that's the final words from me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.